Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Boys.
Here.
Connor. Davis.
Here.
Fusco.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Hannah.
Here.
Hardy.
Here.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Homobian.
Present.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Pastor Murphy, who's the chaplain of Akron Police Department. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Garrett would lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to come together as a collective body to conduct business on behalf of the city of Akron. I ask your blessings upon these leaders as they ponder and come up with new ideas and present things to move our city forward. We pray your blessings upon this city and its residents. We ask that you continue to help us move forward. And we just thank you and we give you all the praise in his name. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have no items on the consent agenda. We do have 3 items up for, gotta get back in there, sorry. So sorry. Public comment period. For those who have signed up or just to participate during public comment period, I'm going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just going to ask when you hear your name, if you could please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. And we're going to begin with Reverend Dr. Joyce Penfield.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. I am today here as a friend and an ally of a peer-led gun violence survivors network in Akron, that entire row and some of the others. This week is National Violence Survivors Week, and we're here to ask our council to remember those who lost their lives to gun violence and to uplift the voice of their survivors by passing a resolution to declare January 22nd, today through this week, Gun Violence Survivors Week. We're here to put a human face and voice on the everyday impact of the epidemic of gun violence. Akron follows the pattern of our nation, that every life lost to gun violence, another 2 are left wounded or injured for life. Nationally, that total would be an average of 135,000 persons a year. But numbers can never tell the story of how the daily lives of hundreds each day are changed forever. Our survivors group tells the story, such as names changed and not people here. LaDonna, whose 21-year-old daughter's life was cut short, leaving behind a grandmother struggling with grief and 2 children for her to raise. Or 10-year-old Jamal, who survived being shot at an event but was left unable to ever walk again, leaving his needs and 4 younger siblings for his mother, Maria, to find the financial resources to care for this. And it does not include the emotional mental wounds of millions who are threatened with a gun or shot at. Over 1 million nationwide have been wounded or shot at by their intimate partner. and another 4.5 million who are alive today report having been threatened with a firearm by the same. There are hundreds of these survivors of gun violence in our city. If 262 lives were lost in the last 5 years, according to the excellent recent coverage in the Beacon Journal, then around 524 were wounded, with at least 1,000 family members and loved ones whose lives were also changed forever, and many who will struggle daily with resulting demands of survival and painful memories. The Akron peer-led group of the Survivors Network, who you will hear from, was formed last year by survivors and their allies to build resilience, support healing, and find resources to meet their needs. If you want more information or you'd like to become part of this, just dial 330-238-8840. This network urges you today to pass the council, to pass this resolution because they care deeply about Akron and what is happening in their local neighborhoods. Most of all, they do not want any other mother, father, sister, brother, or child or loved one to experience what they've experienced personally. I urge you to support the resolution, which will be before you today.
Thank you, Dr. Penfield. The last name is Mans. I don't want to mispronounce the first name.
Hello.
How do you pronounce your first name?
Ayomide.
Okay, thank you, beautiful.
Thank you for asking. Okay. Whew. Hi, guys. Hi, City Council. It's nice to see you guys. I tried to come last time, but it was when the whole thing was in December, and I didn't know. And then I meant to come, and then I forgot, but I'm here now. But I'm kind of glad that I had to wait to come because and we just found out that about 82% of Congress members that were in support of Israel were were paid over $100,000. And it just makes me think that this is all a money game. And it makes me upset that there's people of the city that I love. I have a deep care for Akron. I really like this city. I used to live in Texas, and it was a relief when I came back up here. It pains me that what is just a game for oil and gas and money, there's a layer on it where they've assigned to us religion, right? They've assigned that if you're against it, then you're against the religion. That way it can't be called out. And it feels like people are being used as pawns almost like our voices don't matter. And I couldn't help but see a parallel to here when it was changed that you can only speak once a month and that instead of 30 people, it's 10. And I didn't come to city council until now, so I was, oh, okay, that changed. When we go out in the streets with peaceful protests, we're returned with rubber bullets. When I was 17 years old, I was out on July 3rd trying to get me and my friend back home. And me and her were directly tear gassed. And there was a point where I turned around and there was a line of SWAT members with rifles in their hand in front of 2 teenage girls. And I can't help but realize with all the crime that we stop in Akron, how much thought goes into crime prevention. There's nothing preventing the crime that's happening to citizens every day. There's a deep root core, not just in Akron. It's not just in Akron. It's in the U.S. It's passing very light and vague resolutions is not going to do anything for the deep core wound that is plaguing our people. Everything from poverty to gun violence to crimes, to petty thefts, to car thefts. All this stuff that's happening in Akron is here because of a deep root issue, and until anyone actually takes it seriously, it's not going to change very much. That's all.
Ms. Mans, thank you so much. Angela Bennett.
Good evening. Good evening, City Council. My name is Angela Bennett. I'm a survivor network lead for Moms Demand Gun Sense in America. Over the past year, I've had the honor of meeting several people that are navigating the road of surviving having witnessed an act of gun violence, been threatened or wounded with a gun, or had someone they know and care for killed. This can include, but is not limited to, gun suicides, domestic violence involving a gun, and unintentional shootings and gun suicides. They are in need of support for the court process of prosecuting those involved in the gun violent crime of their loved ones. In addition, they need medical and/or home service for those that have incurred lifelong injuries due to gun violence. Akron citizens whose lives have changed in an instant are not forgotten by their community. We must show up for them during their lifelong journey, offering them free mental health support, and other vital services. Some of these survivors are here this evening, and these are less than 1% of Akron families that have been traumatized by gun violence. Step by step, they are navigating life that has been impacted by gun violence. Let's link arms with them and help make a difference in their journey. Our survivor network is peer-led by those in our community, like me. I'm a survivor. And we identify with others whose life have been impacted by gun violence. I have another minute, so I'm gonna go off the cuff. I am very passionate about the gun violence that is spreading across America, but I'm more passionate about the community that I live in. And since I have been here in Akron, it is just a reflection of the cities that I have lived in before I moved here 3 years. It'll be 3 years in September. This is a wonderful city to live in, but I'm afraid for my 11-year-old son to go to school. You know that children are less safe in school than cops are on the job. That is ridiculous. I am scared for him because guns can go, what happened in Iowa? There's gotta be a solution, right? A solution isn't adding more DARE police officers to the school. A solution is not Alice drills that he comes home scared of because he's learning about an active shooter that's non-existent at this point. Okay, my son, when he goes to school, he's happy. I'm praying. I'm praying every minute that he is in that school, that he will return home safely, that he will not be a victim of gun violence, survive living, but yet scared to even go to school again. Let's link arms together and let's make a difference. We can start in this city.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bennett. Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, I'd like to invite you to join me at a protest against the gun show in our tax-supported fairgrounds this Saturday at 11 o'clock to 12. I think a lot of the guns that are on the streets of Akron come from that gun show. Love to see you there with us. Months before the Gazan jailbreak on October 7th, my Jewish friend and I were having coffee at the local Starbucks when he said about his beloved Jewish land of Israel, a people without a land for a land without a people. I knew he was quoting a popular lie, but I didn't want to offend him, so I said nothing. But I'm saying something to you tonight. When the Palestinian young people broke out of the Gazan concentration camp that was suffocating their Palestinian refugees, they massacred 1,200 Jewish citizens, including some Americans. It was a shock to every Israeli citizen and to Jews and their friends around the world. One of my other Jewish friends said, it was scary. The imprisoned Palestinian refugees from Gaza said in this violent massacre, you can't ignore us any longer. We're still here. You can't pretend that we don't exist. We demand our land back. Your illegal settlements on the West Bank and your absolute control over us in the Gaza Strip has got to stop. Your home invasions and your desecration of our holiest sites by your far right-wing settlers and Israeli soldiers in the Muslim Dome of the Rock, in the third holiest city of Jerusalem for Muslims, and the Christian Church of the Birth of Christ in Bethlehem has got to stop. The massacre of 1,200 Israeli citizens and their friends was an evil act of violence, but understandable in light of Israel's and Great Britain's, and more recently, America's 100 years of war on Palestine. The lie that the war on Gaza is a war on Hamas instead of a war on Palestinians must be exposed. Hamas massacred 1,200 Israeli citizens and their friends. But the IDF, under the leadership of that war criminal Bibi Netanyahu, is creating genocide as it bombs the oldest Christian church and the oldest Muslim mosque in Gaza,
Reverend
as
Beatty,
it bombs
I'm sorry,
70%.
but your time is up. I'm sorry, I was going to let you finish your thought, but your time is up.
Thank you. 70% of the Palestinian homes and refugee camps and cities, bombs most of the hospitals, schools, universities, the sewer system, the water system.
Reverend Beatty, that's that. But come back and share the rest with us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Thank you. Thank you. That actually concludes our public comment period for this evening. I know, Mr. Reynolds, you did stand, but you submitted after the deadline, okay? Okay, so I do apologize, but sign up next week, okay? We're now going to move into our public hearings. We do have 3 public hearings scheduled for this evening. Our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 22nd, 2024, during the regular council meeting at 6:30 p.m. Resolution approving the renewal application of Ivela Maldonas Ramos to have agricultural property at 1080 St. Michael's Avenue placed in an agricultural district pursuant to revised code section 929.01. This notice was advertised in the Akron Beacon Journal on January 6th and on the Akron City Council website beginning January 4th.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Evelia Ramos is requesting renewal for an additional period of 5 years of agricultural district designation for property at 1080 St. Michael's Avenue. There's 4.13 acres of land devoted for agricultural use. Agricultural designation will provide financial benefits in the form of property tax relief, and the planning staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 1? I'm going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. I do. Thank you.
We will begin with those who wish to speak in favor.
Good evening. I'm Apostolate Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney Butts, presidential candidate for the United States of America for this 2024 election. I do support the agricultural component. I do also ask that this council have everything that this person needs to maintain it, preserve it, keep it enhancing for the community. And I have a question and a concern. I heard the name of the person, and I'm wondering, all these agricultural projects, are they only for Europeans? European Americans? Do we have any agricultural projects for we who are Native American, multiracial America, for the black person, if that's the proper terminology to use? I think black is ink and paper. For people who have been here against their will and their rights, do we have agricultural projects for people who have come here from Africa? Do we have agricultural projects for poor people that who cannot afford the process to maintain agricultural cultures in their community? Mr. Ramos, or the Ramos people, I have no problem with that, but I do ask that you would be fair and make sure that they have everything they need to preserve this project so they don't end up with penalties against the law to be incarcerated because of lack of resources. And I will be back for your other two items.
Thank you, Ms. Pinckney. Is there anyone else wishing?
Reverend Pinckney.
Reverend Pinckney, I do apologize. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or against item number 1? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer? Aye. Connor? Aye. Boyes?
Aye.
Hannah? Aye. Thank you. For the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, just briefly. This is a agricultural district designation through the state of Ohio for people that own property that is designated for agricultural use. Basically, the city of Akron verifies the fact that it continues to be of agricultural use, and that way the petitioner is granted tax abatement for farming within the city of Akron. Of course, this is a state of Ohio program. We had heard today while going over, just to address some of the concerns, today during our capital budget review, we're funding the Let's Grow Akron. That's a partner with the city of Akron, which we have funded for years and we have a great partnership with. And we also had heard about a grant that we received. I believe it's $1 million grant that we are utilizing to help those individuals, and it's supposed to be targeted in terms of recidivism. I may not pronounce that right, recidivism? Yeah, those that are coming out of jail. And we're partnering with organizations on that, and it's basically around trees. However, though, those that go through a program that we're working on and designating will come out at the end with a certificate and ought to help in terms of employment. That's the goal. Anyways, in our public works, public service departments doing that. So thank you.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 12-0. Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 22nd, 2024, during the regular council meeting at 6:30 p.m. Resolution approving the renewal application of Donald and Carol Bessemer to have agricultural property at 1543 Collier Road placed in an agricultural district pursuant to Revised Code Section 929.01. This notice was advertised in the Akron Beacon Journal on January 6th and on Akron City Council website beginning January 4th.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Donald and Carol Bessemer are requesting renewal for an additional period of 5 years of agricultural district designation for their property at 1543 Collier Road. The Bessemers have 11.34 acres of land devoted for agricultural use. Agricultural designation will provide financial benefits in the form of property tax relief and encourages continued agricultural production of that property. And the planning staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 2? Just as a reminder, your comments should pertain to 1543 Collier Road and the renewal application. You may approach the podium.
My comments are always related to the topic.
Are you speaking in favor?
I'm speaking in favor and with questions. I heard you say that these agricultural projects are for property owners. I also heard it mentioned that there's some association with people who have been incarcerated. I have a question. Like I said, I have no challenge with this family having the agricultural project. And I asked you also, and I didn't hear the answer to my question, are these agricultural projects only for European Americans? I did not get an answer. If people who have been incarcerated, displaced, homeless, if people who have not even been in those lives of walks of tragedy, who are not European Americans, do they still have this process? Do they still have this opportunity? What opportunities are the Bessemers offering to the city of Akron for we people of color, for our children, our grandchildren, and the overall community that would be fair and equal to all? I ask for this 1543 project. Is the funding allocated in this new proposed budget to help them with maintaining this process? And I ask once again, who is actually getting fair and equal opportunity? Many people, whether they speak American English or not, don't even have an understanding of agricultural communities. So I ask that you would educate more people so we can have more people than European Americans with agricultural projects, and I will be back for the next item.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer? Connor? Boyes?
Aye.
Hannah?
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. Again, this is a program whereas property owners, they petition the city and the state of Ohio through the fiscal office for relief, referencing agricultural pieces. The other two pieces that I had mentioned are programs that's in our capital budget. Perhaps I went too far in terms of mentioning those things, but those are partnerships that we're developing with other entities to help out folks, all folks, in terms of agricultural pieces. So with that, we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis?
I would feel remiss if I didn't make this statement. 40 years ago, when I was a single mom and really struggling, and I lived on St. Michael's, had it not been for the Bessemer family, we wouldn't have survived. My car was always repaired by the Bessemers. They gave my kids plenty of vegetables and food. And I don't know if it's the elderly Bessemers or their children that are carrying on this, but they took care of the neighborhood very well. So I just wanted to say that because it's funny. It's like, the Bessemers, okay, I dealt with them when my kids were 7 and 8 years old, and they looked out for us.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for sharing. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 12-0. Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 22nd, 2024, during the regular council meeting at 6:30 p.m. Resolution adopting the 2024 Capital Investment and Community Development Program, legally referred to as the Capital Investment Budget. This was advertised in the Akron Beacon Journal on January 6th and on the Akron City Council website beginning January 4th.
Helen Tomic?
Good evening, Madam President, council members. Every year, the city administration prepares a capital investment and community development program for city council consideration. The budget specifies the types, locations, costs, and general descriptions of capital investments planned for implementation throughout the year. The capital investment and community development program includes the following: enhancing and maintaining existing infrastructure, street and sidewalk improvements, improvements to parks, completing work at the Davis and Patterson Park community centers, finalizing design of a new pool at Reservoir Park and renovations at the Reservoir Community Center, ongoing partnerships with Kaboom to address place space inequities, the purchase of vehicles for police, fire, and public services, the purchase of one engine truck for the fire department, debt service on previously financed capital projects, the completion of the East Exchange Street project, and ongoing water and sewer system upgrades. The objectives of the capital investment program are to construct or rehabilitate facilities vital to the residents of the city of Akron, to encourage private investment, thereby increasing the city's tax base and annual revenues, to leverage federal, state, and private funds wherever possible to fund capital projects, and to provide capital improvements in support of long-term growth consistent with the city's land use and development guide plan. The proposed 2024 capital investment and community development program represents a total of approximately $360 million. Funding includes $91.8 million of local funds, $2.4 million of regional funds, $197.4 million from the state of Ohio, $64.2 million from the federal government, and $4.9 million from private sources. City staff conducted a detailed review of the budget this afternoon with City Council. We covered the transportation, public facilities, housing, community services, economic development, and miscellaneous sections. On Monday, January 29th, we will continue our review with City Council. We'll review the Parks and Recreation Program along with water and sewer capital budgets. As stated earlier, per city charter, the capital budget must be passed by February 15th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. If there's anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against, going to ask that you please stand so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to begin with those who wish to speak in favor of item number 3. You may approach the podium.
Was item number 3?
Yep, item number 3.
That was the budget. Are you speaking in favor of? No. I'll let you.
I'm going to reintroduce myself again because I think somebody's not hearing what I'm saying. I'm Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney Butts, apostolate. An apostolate is someone who establishes order. I'm in support of the budget with the necessary corrections. I did not hear anything in the budget pertaining to ending homelessness, substance abuse. I did not hear anything in the budget pertaining to allocating funding for mothers, for women with businesses, people of color with businesses. I did not hear anything in the budget pertaining to providing the needs to be met on Cloppy Road for those potholes and the necessary street corrections in the poor, black, and middle-class communities. I did not hear anything in that budget. I support people getting things, but I support people getting things fairly. I heard this evening, this organization, speaking of gun violence. I too am an overcomer of gun violence. Some people broke the law. They went into the school with guns and stole my babies. But I decided not to commit a crime. I didn't hear anything in that budget to talk about ending gun violence. See, more money is spent on producing, manufacturing, selling, and trading guns in this country than putting a pen, a computer, a piece of paper, and a pencil in a child's hand. That budget, oh yeah, give the people what they need, but you're missing a whole lot of needs. One of the things that brought me to Akron, Ohio, was that I wasn't safe in my own hometown because of gun violence. I never thought that my children would never come home from school when I took them to school and sent them to school. I also have organizations pertaining to gun violence. But I'm finding that as you draft these legislative processes, you're missing so many people. I don't see anything or hear anything in your budget pertaining to the businesses such as even our council president has our own business in a community in Ward 3, I believe. I don't hear anything in your budget pertaining to, I was in a city recently, in a city hall, and there were brochures sitting by the clerk's office saying, from a mental health agency, saying that they are teaching people how to safely smoke crystal meth, how to safely smoke cocaine, and how to exchange syringes, and another place in New Hampshire, how to exchange needles. I don't hear anything in your budget leading people back to the faith community. So yes, whatever you have in your budget, pass that. But don't pass these people by. I don't hear anything in your budget giving people the opportunity to start businesses after they have fallen through the cracks of life and the cracks of our system. See, we can't keep Akron, Cleveland, Barberton, Canton, Chicago, Indianapolis like it is, you all. Playtime is over. We're losing. We're losing a battle. Yes, I'm concerned about Pakistan and Palestine and Israel, but we have some dirty laundry here we need to be fixing while we're going somewhere else. I didn't hear anything in your budget coming back to the church. Isaiah 9:6 says that you all are on our shoulders. We're not on yours. What I did hear in your budget, and I understand this councilman even has a school, a barber school. I didn't hear anything in your budget to support that. I want to hear more in your budget, building up people of color in this country, in this city. I want to hear more in your budget, building up women in this city. I want to hear more in your budget about how the academic process is not going to have this mother afraid to send her child to school because mine didn't come home from school. Let's not play games with one another. Let's not pretend that we have a blind eye and we don't see and we don't hear. I hear you, Council President. I'm about to wind this up, but you know I'm a preacher, so that's the first thing I am outside of a presidential candidate. But let's not play the game. And let's not be so personal about it being about us only. We impact this next generation. Put some more in your budget to meet the needs of the people.
Thank you, Reverend Pinckney. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Oh, I got to favor the budget, or I'm in favor of the budget. What I'm doing?
That's up to you. Just come on, give your comments. Give your comments.
I don't know.
Give your
because
comments.
we didn't took it to the left, but I'm gonna go ahead and get us back to the right. But we still to. I got you. We need her name and number. Thank you very much. I know y'all know who I am. For those who do not, y'all have not seen me in a while. Darita Davis. I'm always going to represent Stop the Violence Akron movement for sure. The Womb, Freedom Block, Akron Organizing Collaborative. We the ones that make the difference, okay? So a lot of you are sitting in these seats because we made that happen. So with that said, I am standing here today really representing Moms Demand Action. They asked me to come here to represent the resolution that was presented today, and I wore my orange because Stop the Violence has been around and we've been a little silenced, but we still here. So with the response to, we are resource rich, I guess, so you want to talk about the budget, right? Because we can talk about that. So the budget is a whole nother topic because our former council person wanted to make sure that we put that online so that everybody can see it, so it can be transparent, right? Okay. Shouts out to Russ Neal, and we want Miss Davis to do a good job. You got my last name, so we're gonna keep that gangster there. So I represent the movement in so many ways, but in the collaboration of saying that, being here today representing Moms Demand Action, that is very strong on the resolution that we need to pass and the budget that has to be passed, because there's a lot of monies that been in our new mayor, Mr. Shamus Malik over there. We talked about the money that had been distributed for the ARPA grant that was not really designed, and I sat on a table with James Hardy and we worked this out. Darita was at the table, but Darita and her organization didn't get a dime, okay? And we gave money and we didn't see action. So that's one thing. And that's really why Moms Demand Action asked me to get back active. Because somebody out here is doing the work that had been doing the work, but the work that they wanted to see done is not being done. We don't want to hear no more conversations. We don't want to have an elite council of youth. We need their input because they're going to college. A recruiter came and got me and sent me to Central State. That's why I came. That's why I went to Central State. That's why I'm back here. Because then my community needed me to come back here and give that knowledge back to my community and be that vessel so them educators, them people that graduate from here to come back. I was one of the ones that came back after 10 years. Because I love this city. When somebody said they love this city, we came back because we want to give back the Sankofa, okay? So that's all, that we can go there all day long, and I don't want to go ahead and give a sermon. But the dollars have not been distributed to the folks who have been there sweating and doing the work. I have been asked. I've been shoved, pushed, kicked down, name in the paper when other folks did worse than me, okay? But I fall down and I get up. But I've been asked as a consultant for the great city of Akron to help with the pit count this week, okay? Because somebody talked about the homeless. There's a lot of money. So this week nationally, if you want to volunteer or help, there is monies and there is funding and there's work for you to actually get out here and civically engage your community to find out if they're homeless, are they safe? We're not only taking in chronic 1 homeless, we're taking in chronic 2, category 1 and 2. You're 2 if you're couch surfing and you ain't got a key, you're homeless, 18 to 24. So we looking for you. So Darita Davis got her team along with that Freedom Block team and all the people that's been doing this work all the time that don't get funded because we fund top tier people. That's where the money going, sister. The money going to top tier organizations and not to the grassroots and the people that's really doing the work, okay? So you want this body of individuals to really do some work, put the money in the community. The people that's going outside with layers on and boots on to go count our homeless, that's gonna be out all this week, okay? And just so, cause Darita got game, people that's messing with me, they can get $20 an hour just to come with me because I can consult with people because I'm gonna send the people where they need to be, okay? And we're going to get the numbers that Akron need so that when HUD go to their offices or wherever they at and do their numbers, they can say Summit County did the numbers. And Summit County said, we are dealing with something real. And we have youth that are homeless that don't know because a lot of our parents is pacifying them. Mine had to go at 18. Okay? You ain't got a job, you got to go. Couch surf somewhere else. But that's what I'm saying. We have to be accountable for our own youth. No, we don't want to put them out, but we want to give them a safe space to live. And I stand today, Stop the Violence Akron movement, reactivated. Ms. Joyce had to come get me out the bed, okay, to get me back activated because there's no way in the world that a white woman, and I ain't trying to say it, that'll come get a black woman that ain't never had no one die other than Rhonda Wick's son, which is my cousin on Lover's Lane. I never had nobody have to die in the city of Akron for me to care. So where your heart at? I live in Ward 5. And Mr. Johnny Hanna, I live in Ward 5. The people fool with me. okay? You better knock on some doors and talk to the people. And that goes with everybody. I love y'all, but no, pit count this week. Put your money where your mouth is, okay? That's
Thank you,
what's up.
Dorita. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Hey, my name is Fran Wilson. I'm a community organizer in Ward 1. Me and I think 2 other citizens sat through the lengthy budget hearing today. But I just wanted to reiterate, and I know I talked to somebody afterwards about it, but it would be really great to take some of that information from that hours-long meeting and turn it into a public presentation in a town hall. I think there's a lot of appetite, as you see a little bit here tonight, for more people to understand and engage the budget-making process. I do appreciate some of the workflow, additional graphics that were at the start about the process of the budget. Anybody interested in looking at the budget, you could just Google capital budget Akron, and then you could find it. It's 33 pages long. It's worth a read. But thank you, and I hope we have a town hall next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Mr. Reynolds?
So I don't know if this is in favor or against, but I'm just going to go now.
Okay.
I really would like to see, and I think everyone would like to see, this capital budget invested in the people who give you the money, the people. We've been hushed. Tonight's an example. I sent in a request earlier in the day. Something in technology didn't get through. I didn't realize, oh shoot, I didn't get a confirmation email until 6 o'clock. So I sent it down then. So I was not allowed to speak during public comment. So I really think that we need to prioritize how we're doing things, where we're doing things, where the money's going. We're not all big name people. We're just here trying to make a difference in our city. 6 years ago, I didn't hear anything of Akron except for the soapbox derby. I was from Southeast Pennsylvania. I moved here. I'm proud to be here in Akron. I'm proud to be giving my voice to the people that I interact with day in and day out. Council has changed the rules so that a limited number of people can speak.
Mr. Reynolds, we got to speak on topic.
Okay, this
We're
is
talking
on
about
topic.
the capital budget. Okay?
Money.
Capital budget.
You have to plan the capital to hear the people speak. We pay the lights. We're paying for that. That's part of the budget. I don't know all this about budget, but we just need to prioritize stuff, man. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Pull the committee to refer this item. Kamer? Connor? Boyes?
Aye.
Hannah? Yes, we're going to refer this item. We will continue the capital budget review next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. This item will be referred. We're now going to move into our old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda.
Time will be granted. Public service, Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report on 1 is suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. This is an agreement that we're working with Copley High School in regards to constructing a sanitary sewer to replace a small wastewater treatment plant on their site.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Item number two is consent agenda.
Item number 2 will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 3, same thing, consent agenda, please.
Thank you. Item number 3 will also be placed on the consent agenda. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation, beginning with public service.
Item number 1, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Rulin Company for professional engineering services to provide construction management services for water capital projects and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is consent agenda.
Item number 1 will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 2, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a consent agreement with the Ohio Director of Transportation for the signage replacement on various routes throughout the city of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 3, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a consent agreement with the Ohio Director of Transportation for the construction of noise walls along I-77 from Waterloo Road to Lovers Lane in the city of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is consent agenda. Thanks.
Thank you. This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 4, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Summa Health to provide the education and training necessary for fire division employees to achieve the required paramedic certification and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
The report of the committee is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will allow several of our newer members of the department to be able to become trained as paramedics through SUMA's program. We're asking for passage.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 5, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee without the formality of advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with the city of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio for the use of its training center and firing range by the City of Akron Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
The report of the committee is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This is one of several facilities that our Akron Police Department uses for training when there's conflict, so they'll be able to have different venues to be able to utilize, and this will continue positive training for our police officers.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 6, offered by Councilman Garrett, resolution recognizing January 22nd, 2024 to January 26, 2024 as Gun Violence Survivors Week and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
The report of the committee is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
I'd like to defer to Councilman Garrett.
Councilman Garrett?
Thank you, Mr. McKittrick, and thank you, Chair, President, for this opportunity. I was contacted by Ms. Joyce with Moms Demand Action, and I just want to applaud her for reaching out and just sharing or caring so much for our city. I stand in support of this. As a father, as a survivor, my son was a victim of gun violence. And it's so much more than just that individual being impacted. My wife, my daughter, my family, all was impacted by that. One of the things Ms. Joyce brought up was about a person being disabled or becoming wheelchair bound. The family's left to care for that individual. So the sole purpose of this is to bring awareness to it and to really put the work in, boots on the ground. 633 individuals in the city of Akron were impacted through discharging firearms, felonies, assault with firearms, and murders with firearms. And that's 633 individuals. That's up 2.3% from last year. In addition to that, there's accounts pretty much collecting weapons. So far in 2023, they collected 868 weapons, but there's so much more work to do. So I just urge my colleagues to pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other comments at this time? Councilwoman Amobian?
Just want to suggest that we do mayor and council as a whole.
So we do have a motion on the floor for mayor and council as a whole. Is there a second? And we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. I do apologize. Do you want to say something? You good? Okay.
This resolution passes 12-0.
Thank you so much. That actually concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to go into committees, rules. Councilman McKittrick. Public safety, Councilman McKittrick.
2:15.
Budget and finance, Councilman Lombardo.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilwoman Connor. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
1 o'clock, and we'll also continue our review of the capital budget at 3:30 next Monday.
Thank you. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco.
Subject to call.
Public Service, Councilman Kamer.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee.
2 p.m.
Thank you. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Hardy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My colleagues, if you'll indulge me a moment. So, when I was 14 years old, my father developed bladder cancer. It was an aggressive form of cancer that would require him to undergo surgery to remove his bladder and receive extensive ongoing treatments to stop the cancer's spread. At the time, he was a tenured professor at the University of Akron, paying into what we all would consider to be excellent health insurance. His insurance covered the surgery, but it would not cover the follow-on treatments his doctors prescribed. My mother liquidated her entire retirement savings in STRS to pay for the treatments. Sadly, the cancer was simply too aggressive, and my father died 2 years later. Having exhausted her life savings to try and save her husband, my mother worked to the age of 67, long after her body and spirit indicated she should have retired. Upon retirement, she was diagnosed with lung and breast cancer and never fully recovered. She passed away at the age of 72. Every one of us in this room holds similar stories of how the healthcare system has negatively impacted our loved ones. And we also hold memories of heroic doctors, nurses, and caregivers who saved lives, eased pain, and made sure we received compassion in our scariest moments. Both of these pictures are true illustrations of healthcare in the United States. How can it be that our healthcare system is both heroically compassionate and financially predatory? The answer lies in a fundamental moral question we as a society have yet to answer. Is healthcare a public good or a market commodity? The experience in America with healthcare has largely been the latter. It's more accurate to call what we have in the U.S. a healthcare market than a system. And yet there's enough doubt in our minds about the market approach to make us regulate healthcare, work to care for the uninsured, and allow for nonprofit and community-based models of care to exist. Admittedly, these efforts have been limited in scope and have largely fallen short in achieving health equity for all people. But at least in these, we find things like legal requirements for nonprofit hospitals to provide charity care, be accountable to the public, and to study the health needs of the communities they claim to serve and respond to them. My colleagues, I rise this evening in opposition of the proposed sale of Summa Health to private equity ownership on the moral conviction that healthcare is a public good and not a market commodity. Further, I have a moral objection to the use of SUMA, its staff, and its patients as quote-unquote guinea pigs for venture capitalists. Human beings are not a means to an end. Human beings are ends in and of themselves. Private equity ownership of healthcare is the most naked method to date of turning healthcare into a market commodity. In the last decade, we've seen private equity destroy healthcare systems like SUMA, slashing staffing, over-leveraging assets to boost their dividends, cutting critical but less profitable services, and exploiting government programs meant to serve marginalized populations like Medicare and Medicaid. Why is this? Because when healthcare is owned by private investors, the only thing that ultimately matters is profit and returning that profit back to the investor owners. In speaking with my friends at SUMA since the announcement, I know they have believed they've structured a first-of-its-kind deal which will prevent such bad things from happening in our community. I know SUMA's leaders to be honest, genuine, with a heart for our community. I have no doubt that as long as they are involved, they will work to protect Akron from the negative consequences of private equity owners we've seen elsewhere. They won't be around forever. None of us will. And when we move on with our lives and careers, what will stop private equity from doing what private equity does? No legal document I know of has yet withstood the forces of capitalists maximizing their returns. The experiences of other communities reveal the negative consequences don't happen overnight. In fact, in the first few years, typically, investors pump obscene amounts of money into their new investment. This phenomenon has actually been promised in our case here in SUMA. But as time progresses and leaders change, promises made at the outset no longer hold. The only constant, the need to maintain healthy returns for investors, pressure grows to do so, and the decline in healthcare access, quality, and employment begins. I've been asked, what is your solution, James? What alternatives do you have? The only true solution for what's ailing SUMA and hospitals like it is universal health care through a national single-payer system like the rest of the modern world. But while we work towards this, we can and should consider alternatives, or at least advocate for alternatives, such as converting SUMA to a county-owned system like Metro Health in Cuyahoga County. Summit County boasts the lowest sales tax rate of any county in the state of Ohio. Surely an issue as important as the health and well-being of our community is worth at least studying what an investment might look like to copy Metro Health. And if that idea doesn't interest you, the good news is that we have community members incredibly smart and much smarter than me with ideas worthy of discussion. In the past week, since I was quoted in the ABJ, I've been approached by residents with important questions, but also incredibly interesting alternatives, which leads me to publicly ask SUMA to pause this process. The community has not been consulted at all, and we stand to gain or lose the most at the outcome of this proposal. At the very least, SUMA owes Greater Akron a transparent process where concerns and questions of the general public are asked and answered. In closing, Madam Chair, the Iroquois had a philosophy called the seventh generation principle, which taught that decisions made today should result in a sustainable world for 7 generations into the future. I encourage all of us to ask ourselves how comfortable we are in trusting the health care of our grandchildren to venture capitalists. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman, for sharing. Thank you. Councilwoman Amobian.
I certainly will not speak as eloquently as my colleague, but I just want to share with you that SUMA has reached out to us and would like to come to council next Monday at the Health and Social Services Committee at 2:30. Mr. Ben Sutton, the Chief Operating Officer, and Tracy Carter will be coming, and they need about roughly 30 minutes, 15 minutes to do the presentation, and about 15 minutes for questions. So they will be here. For those of you who are interested in hearing their side, maybe this will be an opportunity to start that town hall meeting or that discussion with the public. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments at this time? Annette?
Thank you, Madam President.
On behalf of the mayor, I wanted to offer, realizing that the question of Suma would come up, his desire to be a conversation partner and a support through this process, and trusting in the role of the Suma board and in their leadership to date and their care for the organization, but also wanting to extend to you and to the public a desire to be a conversation partner and a support that would see Akron's future do well. I also wanted to take a moment, as we have, and I know we will hopefully have with us next week, Detective Larry Rodebeck, and I'd like to just have us tonight acknowledge the amazing feat that he performed on January the 11th, saving a 23-month-old infant from certain death at an overdose. So just publicly wanted to, on behalf of the mayor, take the first moment to acknowledge that, and I know we will do that more formally, hopefully with Detective Rodebeck next week. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? If not, is there a motion for adjournment? We have a motion for adjournment and a second. Meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.